The pandemic changed everything and everybody as it pertains to work. Like, do you ever wonder why there was such a great resignation and then all the quiet quitting? Well, one of the reasons is because people had this realization. There was an awakening that happened in people in regards to what are they doing with their time every single day? How are they making money? And then just what are they doing with their lives? And so today we're going to talk about how to find work that you love. Welcome back to my channel where I'm always teaching you how to strategically make money online, but also have a balanced life. And today is one of those episodes where we're talking about having a balanced life and enjoying the life that you have with the subject of how to find work that you love. Now, obviously, I'm an entrepreneur and I teach entrepreneurship, but I don't believe that everybody is meant to be an entrepreneur, right? I just don't. And so this is not one of those conversations where I'm encouraging you in your entrepreneurship journey, but more so talking about finding work that you love, okay? So we started off by talking about how the pandemic had did so much. And so I'll just dive more into that. So here's one of the things that I think that happened. So many of us spent our lives, going to school, and then you go out and you get a job. And then every morning you wake up at a certain time, you put on a certain type of clothing for that environment, and then you go into that environment and you work whatever hours you're supposed to work, take a break when you're supposed to, and then do the job that you were hired to do. And many people just do that every single day. And whether they love it or they don't love it, whether they love the job that they do or the place that they do it in or their coworkers or their boss or the company or whatever, or even the pay, people just kind of did it until the pandemic hit. And here's one of the things I think that happened. So when I look at the pandemic, so many people died, and that many of us have just never thought that we would ever see, experience, like just ever in our lifetime. And then we all dealt with the fact of that we could all die. And here was this thing that we could not control and we didn't know what to do about it and all this stuff. Here was all that, the possibilities that could happen. And then when people thought about, like they still had to work, right? So here's this crisis happening in the world, and while all this is going on, people still had to work. And at one point they were still going into the office because companies were not set up for remote work. They just weren't. And so people had to continue doing this thing where they were deathly afraid. Then they were nervous that they were going to lose their jobs. Then they weren't making any money. All this stuff started to happen. And then when they started dealing with what were their bosses saying during all this time, how were they being treated, what was the sensitivity in all this, then if they had people that died, how were their bosses and their companies handling the deaths that people were experiencing, and then the loss that people had, like the time off and all of that. Then when they decided that, okay, the world is opening back up and everybody's going to work, then people had to deal with how is my company and my boss and all of this handling, the possibility of contamination of us all coming back to work and all this type of stuff. And so I felt like people started having this like, no, I'm not doing this anymore. I hated this, or I don't like how I'm being treated now or what's happening now. I don't want to do this. I don't know what I should do, but I know this isn't it. And so many people just started quitting, okay, for lots of different reasons. But one of the reasons I feel is because they realize I don't love this. I don't love what I'm doing. I don't love how I'm being treated. I don't love this system that has been set up, for me and my job of how I pay my bills. And so I am out of here, right? And many people found themselves saying like, what do I really want to do? Because I don't think that most people had asked themselves that question until all of this happened. I just don't think that most people really started asking themselves that question, or when they realized that, they couldn't see their loved ones, their kid, or all of this stuff, I just think people had this moment in time where they said, I've got to find something else to do. Okay. And I was one of those people. Now, I was an entrepreneur then. I'm an entrepreneur now. But I had the time where I was just like, I don't like my business the way that I'm doing this. I don't like how my customers treat me. I don't like how I've set this up. I don't like. And I finally just said, I'm not doing this anymore the way that I'm doing it. And that's when I stopped doing my design agency and started focusing more on video marketing strategies. And so then there became this like moment of like, but what do I do now? And this is where I feel like some people are right now, where it's like, what do I do? And here's what I want to tell you today. So, one of the things to understand is that, typically the thing that we love to do, typically, is not the thing that's going to pay our bills. It's just typically not, because typically the things that we're passionate about, somebody hasn't created a company and needed people to work in these different areas and paying you $50,000, $70,000, $100,000 plus. Most people haven't set up companies to help people operate in their passions, the way that we would want to, right? So it is important to know that there is a possibility that you may have to do some work to pay your bills, but then you're on the side, you're going to do things that you love. Okay. So let's focus on the things you love. How to find things that you love, how to work in the things that you love. So one of the first things is you have got to ask yourself the question of, what do I really enjoy doing? Okay, what do I really, really, really enjoy doing? Oftentimes we don't really ask ourselves that question. Oftentimes we enjoy going out to eat, going out to restaurants, travel, whatever, right? And you can be a travel blogger, but you know what I mean. Most times it's not necessarily we can work in these particular passions. It's like, oh, I love doing this, this, and this. But in this instance, you have to ask yourself this question of like, what do I love to do that can bring value to other people? Okay. What do I love to do that can bring value to other people? So I'm getting this vision of like a teacher who's at school and these little kids, and they're helping raise these little people into adults, Then I'm getting a vision of someone that's at an after school program and they're playing basketball with the kids and just kind of mentoring, you know what I mean? And then you just have those that are just doing, they're just doing a little bit of tutoring after school and just helping kids that need a little bit of special help. Like I just keep getting visions of kids or whatever, right? And so that is like, you love to do this thing, but you may say to yourself, I don't want to be a teacher. Great. Well, if you love kids and you want to help with A, B, and C, then one of the things you're going to need to do is you're going to have to ask yourself, in what ways can I actually give my time? Now, you may get paid for that time, or you may actually do that for free. So I was recently getting ready to volunteer with Big Brothers Big Sisters here in San Diego, and then with another organization. But I decided that I'm going to move to back to Houston, Texas this coming summer. And so I didn't feel like it was right for them to give me a child in San Diego and then I leave in 6 months. That's not going to be good for the child. They're not going to appreciate the fact that this adult kind of came in and went out. I wouldn't enjoy that. And if I was a program director, I wouldn't give me a child either. But I kind of said to myself, I really enjoy, spending time with young people and giving them hope, giving them, my journey, my story, and being able to spend time with them in whatever that looks like for that particular young adult or what have you, and that's something that I love to do. And so you have to ask yourself the question of like, what is it that I really enjoy doing that I would do it whether I got paid for it or not? Okay. But oftentimes what happens is that once you find out what it is that you love to do, you have to uncover that. It's not something anybody else can uncover. That's why I said how to find work that you love, because you have to uncover what that looks like for you. And so once you uncover what that is, oftentimes you'll start doing that probably as a volunteer, and then eventually something opens up and now you have this opportunity where you're able to get paid, whether it's part-time, it's full-time, or you create and start your own thing where you're serving people in a greater capacity. But it first requires your introspection. I feel like oftentimes that we as adults, that we spend so much of our lives doing these things that we're not necessarily passionate about, that we kind of forget what we are passionate about. Like we just forget. I remember when I went through divorce, I was like, I don't really know what I enjoy doing. I could not figure out what I enjoy doing. I'm like, I enjoy cooking. I was like, okay. I enjoy doing Zumba. Okay. And it's been like this journey for the last 7 or so years of trying to figure out what do I actually enjoy doing? You know what I mean? Outside of the marriage, but just in general, because of just doing life the same way every single day, 9 to 5, whatever, or building my business. It's been like, oh, I enjoy business. And it's like, no, that's what I do for work. That's not what I actually love to do. You know what I mean? And so you're going to have to identify by doing some introspection about you and what it is that you enjoy, because it's not until you start doing things that you love to do that you're really going to get a lot of fulfillment in life. You know, somebody asked me this question yesterday. They said, we want to spend some time getting to know everybody outside of work. What is something that you are passionate about that people wouldn't know? And I said, therapy and mental health. And everybody was like, really? There's a therapist in the room? I was like, because I feel like everybody needs a therapist, that everybody has gone through so much in their lives. And if they would just walk alongside someone that has tools, they will be such a better person, and the world will be such a better person because of it. So I'm like, I'm so passionate about it. And I talk about it all the time in my business, in my ministry, and all the things. And I guarantee that they were just like, oh, interesting. And I am very passionate about it. And so, like, I have my business that makes me money, but one of my big goals is to have conferences. And at those conferences, yes, I'm going to teach you about business, but we're going to take time during that conference when we're going to work on your mental health. When there's going to be ministers in the room, there's going to be therapists in the room, you know, and we're going to be working on things and working in groups, and if people need to be taken to the side, they get taken to the side to have, you know, an encounter that they need with God, Jesus, Holy Spirit, and with a therapist, you know, because I'm so passionate about it, because I don't want people to just make a bunch of money. I want people to be wealthy and healthy in their bodies and healthy in their minds, you know, and in their spirits. And so, do I want to go to school to be a therapist? No, I do not. I will not do that. But I will surround myself with therapists so that when I'm putting on events and I'm learning and all this type of stuff, that I'm able to have them come in and teach things. I'm able to ask them questions. Kind of like, you know how Oprah does what she does? She has all these experts. I'm like, I don't want to be the expert. I want to have the experts bring them to a community that I have built or I am building. Okay. And so that is something I would do, that I'm passionate about doing, and I talk about it all the time, but I don't get paid to tell people to go to therapy or like work people through their traumas or whatever, but I love it. Okay. So I just want to record this today and talk to you about that, because I really think that it's important for you to not just live your life where you're paying your bills and you're just going around the same thing every single day, but you're actually doing things that you're passionate about, that you love to do, even if you don't ever get paid.